It.
Hey guys, so today I'm gonna do part 2. So if you're seeing part 2 and you haven't watched part 1 yet, you need to go back and watch the first video first and then come back and watch this one. Otherwise you're going to be a little lost as to where I'm at, okay? Alright, so a little recap, or a quick recap as quickly as I can, just because we got a lot left to do on this section, is we're talking about Jacob and his 12 sons. I do want to hear that you know all the 12 sons, because I will give you $1 each for each of them. Plus, so let's just get started. The recap is Jacob has sent his sons, not Joseph and not Benjamin, off to go take care of the sheep, okay? So they're off, and they're off in another land. He tells Joseph, hey, I want you to go check on your brothers, take them anything that they need, go see if they need anything, and then come back and report. So Joseph goes and does that. So he goes off, and the brothers see him coming from a distance, and they start to plan his death, because his brothers they hate Joseph, okay? And they hate Joseph for many different reasons. One, because he has dreams that can be interpreted and those dreams come true. Two, he's the favorite son of Jacob. I mean, there's just many different things. Jacob has given him this beautiful coat. It's a very ornate coat. So there's just so many different things as to why these brothers hate Joseph, okay? So they see him off in the distance, and they say, we need to get rid of Joseph. Okay, so we need to kill him and get rid of him, all right? So they start to plan his death. So before Joseph gets there, Reuben steps up and says, hey, let's not kill him, because what are we going to get out of killing him? Let's put him in the cistern. The cistern is an old well that's no longer got water in it, okay? So it's just a deep, deep well that used to have water in it. Let's put him in the cistern, and let's think about this for a little bit before we actually kill him right off the bat, okay? So that's what they do. Joseph gets there, they throw him in the cistern, okay? But while he's in the cistern, Reuben happens to go off somewhere, don't know why. He's probably getting wood for the fire or something. And the brothers see a caravan of Ishmaelites coming to them. So Judah says, hey, why are we going to kill him? What are we going to get out of it? We may get a lot of more heartache than what we think. So why don't we just sell Joseph to the Ishmaelites? We should get something out of him. So that's what they do. They pull Joseph out, and they tell the Ishmaelites, hey, what will you give us for this young lad who can do a lot of things? He can be your slave, or you can sell him to somebody else. So they give the brothers 20 pieces of silver, okay? So now that Joseph is gone with the Ishmaelites, Reuben comes back and he notices that Joseph isn't there anymore, and he's like, what are we supposed to do now? How are we going to go back to father with no Joseph and just his jacket? And so what they do is they decide to kill a sheep. And so when they kill the sheep, they put the blood all over the jacket, or the coat, not really a jacket, it's a coat. And they take it back to Jacob. And Jacob thinks that his son has been torn apart by an animal and devoured, okay? So now that Joseph is sold to the Ishmaelites, we are now over there at Potiphar's house, because the Ishmaelites sell Joseph to Potiphar. So poor Joseph, he goes from being an okay person and an okay stature in his household to his brothers hating him and throwing him into a cistern to die, to selling him to the Ishmaelites, to Potiphar's house. But at Potiphar's house, Potiphar likes Joseph and puts him in charge of his house. So things are kind of looking up for Joseph now. But then Potiphar's wife accuses Joseph of trying to attack her. And that's just not true. But, of course, Potiphar believes his wife and not Joseph. And so Potiphar has Joseph sent to jail. Okay, so now he's going back down the ladder. Instead of going up the ladder, he's going back down the ladder. So he starts off in jail. But the warden at the jail really likes Joseph, and so the warden makes Joseph in charge of his jail down there. So now Joseph is starting to climb the ladder back up. He's now in charge of something else and taking care of things. While Joseph is in jail, he meets the cop. Okay guys, sorry, we had to switch phones. Once again, my phone messed up on me, so I'm sorry. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit, it'll be okay. So Joseph is in jail, and he meets the cupbearer and the baker, who are all a part of the Pharaoh's court, okay? The cupbearer and the baker end up having these dreams, and they ask Joseph to interpret them, and Joseph basically tells them, who else can interpret dreams but God himself? But if you tell me the dreams, God will speak to me, and I can tell you what they mean. So basically, he does that, and he tells the cupbearer, make sure you remember me and pass it on, okay? Well, when the cupbearer and the baker go before the king, before Pharaoh, the cupbearer forgets his promise to Joseph, and the dreams do come true, and so it's a couple of years before the cupbearer remembers what Joseph did for him. The only reason why the cupbearer remembered is because the king is now having these weird dreams about something that's fixing to happen. He doesn't know what it means, and he calls for Joseph to come up and translate for him. So that's where we're at, okay? So let me start. We ended up in Genesis 41, the big number 41, and verse 26. So if you want to follow along, this is where we ended up. So the Pharaoh has just described his dreams to Joseph, okay? And so Joseph is now going to translate the dreams. So the 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads on the grain are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. The 7 lean, ugly cows that came up after are the 7 years, and so are the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind. They are also 7 years of famine. It is just as I said to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow them. Then all the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. The abundance in the land will not be remembered, because the famine that follows will be so severe. The reason the dream was given to Pharaoh in 2 forms is that the matter has been firmly decided by God, and God will do it soon. So because of this, let's see, where am I at? Yeah. So because of this, God is still fulfilling his plan for Joseph through dreams. So this time, through the dreams of the 2 prisoners, the mighty ruler of Egypt, of Pharaoh. Okay, so there's basically 3 dreams here that he's fulfilling right now. So when Joseph interpreted the dreams of the baker and the cupbearer, he didn't take credit. Okay, he gave the glory to God. When he interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, he focused all the attention on God. It wasn't Joseph's knowledge of the dream that helped him interpret their meetings. It was his knowledge of God. So after interpreting Pharaoh's dream, Joseph outlined God's plan for Egypt's survival. They would have to work hard for 14 years to make this dream come true. Okay. Pharaoh liked Joseph's plan and recognized that Joseph was a man in whom was the Spirit of God. He put him in charge of his own house, the entire land of Egypt. Okay, so this is just crazy. So basically what's happened is Joseph says we're going to have 7 really good years, and then we're going to have 7 really bad years. So a total of 14 years, okay, is what's happening here. All right, so because of the 7 good years, Joseph has decided to put away food and start helping, because he knows that everybody in the whole land is going to need food, okay? So this is why he is doing this, all right? So we got Genesis 42, verse 1 through 17. So we are now past our 7 years of good. Now we're in our 7 years. We started our 7 years of very bad famine, okay, across the whole land of Egypt, okay? So Genesis 42, 1 through 17, when Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you just keep looking at each other?" He continued. "I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us so that we can live and not die." Then 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt, but Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with the others, because he was afraid that, hold on guys, I got to pick this up. Sorry. There's a lot of glare from the sun on this. He did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with the others, because he was afraid that harm might come to him. So Israel's sons were among those who went to buy grain, for there was famine in the land of Canaan also. Now Joseph was the governor of the land, the person who sold the grain to all the people. So when Joseph's brothers arrived, they bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. As soon as Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. "Where do you come from?" he asked. "From the land of Canaan," they replied, "to buy food." Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. Then he remembered his dreams about them and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see where our land is unprotected." "No, my lord," they answered. "Your servants have come to buy food. We are all the sons of one man. Your servants are honest men, not spies." "No," he said to them. "You have come to see where our land is unprotected." But they replied, "Your servants were 12 brothers, the sons of one man, one who lives in the land of Canaan. The youngest is with our father now, and one is no more." Joseph said to them, "It is just as I told you, you are spies, and this is how you will be tested. As surely as Pharaoh lives, you will not leave this place unless your younger brother comes here. Send one of your number to get your brother. The rest of you will be kept in prison, so that your words may be tested to see if you are telling the truth. If you are not, then as surely as Pharaoh lives, you are spies." And he put them all in custody for 3 days. Okay. So that's just crazy, right? Well, one of the reasons why Joseph's brothers probably did not recognize Joseph is because they haven't seen him in such a long time, okay? And the last time they thought is that he was going to be either sold or killed somewhere else. They didn't think that he was going to end up being in charge of the land of Egypt, okay? So what he's doing here is he's kind of testing them, okay? He knows who they are. They don't know who he is. That's what this is saying. So what he's going to do after these 3 days, he fears God. And so he's going to tell all of them, just leave one of you, and the rest of you will go back and get the youngest brother and bring him. So what has happened is, during all these chapters that I'm not going to read because it's a long, long chapter and we've got a lot to cover, is that Joseph ends up giving them the food that they need, and he does not take a cent for it. He doesn't take any money for any of this food. He has his servants put the food on their donkeys and on their horses that they have brought, everything that they have brought, their camels, their trailers, whatever, their carts. He has put all the food on them, and then he's also put the silver back in their purses, okay? He does not take a cent at all. He keeps Simeon, is who he keeps. So he put Simeon in jail until they return with Benjamin, okay? So the brothers go back to Jacob, and they tell Jacob, here is what was given to us. And they show Jacob that the food is here, none of the money has been taken, and Jacob is just like astounded. He's like, oh my goodness, what has happened? You have ripped off the Pharaoh. And the brothers say, no, I promise, this is what the Pharaoh's leader has told us, that we just need to take Benjamin back and we can get our brother Simeon back, and he will let us go. And so Jacob is not liking this. He is not liking this at all, okay? Now, so what has happened is Jacob goes ahead and says, okay, so I need Simeon back too. Go ahead and take Benjamin. We need more food, but you have to bring Benjamin back. And so Reuben says, I promise to bring Benjamin back. If I don't, you can kill my children. Okay, so you're going to keep my children, and if I don't bring him back, then you can kill them. Okay, so basically he's saying you could take one life for another. Okay, is what he's giving his dad permission to do. But that's not going to be the case. Okay, so what's going to happen is the brothers return to Egypt because they need more food, and they take Benjamin with them. So they show up at Joseph's palace, or the Pharaoh's palace, and Joseph is there, and he has the best feast ever for them. So he tells his servants, go get some meat and prepare the best feast. They're going to eat lunch with me at lunchtime. Okay, so they bring Simeon out, and the brothers are kind of worried. They're like, what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. This has to be because we didn't pay the silver the first time around. So the brothers are telling the servants, hey, look, we have money that wasn't taken the first time around, plus we have money for this time around. Okay, and the servants are telling the brothers, don't worry about it. We've already been paid. It's okay. Keep what you brought. And so the brothers are still a little leery, okay? But they go ahead and feast, and they have Simeon back, okay? But Joseph's not done testing them. So after the feast, Joseph tells his servants, fill up their carts. I'm going to give them extra carts. Fill up their carts with food and silver, and I want you to put this cup of silver. So he's got a cup that he drinks out of. This cup that's made out of silver that's worth a lot of money. in Benjamin's sack. Okay, don't tell anybody. And then at dawn, we're going to send them on their way. So that's what's happened. So let me read to you. It's in chapter 44, verse 1. Now Joseph gave these instructions to the steward of his house. Fill the man's sack with as much food as they can carry, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack. Then put my cup of silver, of the silver one, in the mouth of the youngest one's sack, along with the silver for his grain. And he did as Joseph said. As morning dawned, the men were sent on their way and their donkeys. They had not gone far from the city when Joseph said to his steward, go after these men at once, and when you catch up with them, say to them, why have you repaid good with evil? Isn't this cup my master's drinks? Isn't this the cup my master drinks from and also uses for divination? This is a wicked thing you have done. So basically, they kind of put him on the spot. And the brothers are like, what are you doing? We haven't taken anything. We promise. We will show you right now. So they all get their sacks out, not realizing that there is the cup in one of their sacks. So the steward starts with the oldest person. Okay, and the oldest one is Reuben. So he starts with Reuben. And he goes through each of their sacks until he gets to the youngest one. And he finds the cup in the youngest one's sack. And so the brothers are just devastated because they know that this is not a good sign. And it happens to be Benjamin, the one son that has to come back no matter what. Okay, so they all return back to Joseph. And this is what Joseph says in chapter 44, verse 15 through 20. Joseph said to them, what is this you have done? Don't you know that a man like me can find things out by divination? What can we say to my lord? Judah replied. What can we say? How can we prove our innocence? God has uncovered your servant's guilt. We are now my lord's slaves, we ourselves and the one who was found with the cup. But Joseph said, far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man who was found to have the cup with will become my slave. The rest of you go back to your father in peace. Then Judah went up to him and said, pardon your servant, my lord. Let me speak a word to my lord. Do not be angry with your servant, though you are equal to Pharaoh himself. My lord asked his servants, do you have a father or a brother? And we answered, we have an aged father, and there is a young son born to him in his old age. His brother is dead, and he is the only one of his mother's sons left, and his father loves him. So they're pleading with Joseph, please don't do this, because this is my father's only son left to the wife that he absolutely loves. The other son is dead, okay? And so they go on to say in verse 27, your servant my father said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One of them went away from me, and I said, he has surely been torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. If you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you will bring my great head down to the grave in misery. So now if the boy is not with us when I go back to your servant, my father, and if my father, whose life is closely bound up with the boy's life, sees that the boy isn't there, he will die. Your servants will bring the gray head of our father down to the grave in sorrow. And so your servant guaranteed the boy's safety to my father. I said, if I do not bring him back to you, I will bear the blame before you, my father, all my life. Now then, please let your servant remain here as my lord's slave in place of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. How can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? No, do not let me see the misery that would come on my father. So he is definitely begging for Benjamin's life. He's telling Joseph, I will take Benjamin's place. Please don't do this to my father, because he can't take this anymore. He's already lost one son that he loves so very much. He cannot lose this last one. Okay, so Joseph just then breaks down, and he just can't bear it anymore. And he comes to terms, and he tells his brothers, look, I'm Joseph. And his brothers are like, oh, I'm so afraid. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what game you're playing. I don't believe this. And Joseph says, no, really, I am your brother, Joseph. Okay, so he says in chapter 45, in verse 4, then Joseph said to his brothers, come close to me. When they have done so, he said, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve you for you the remnant on earth, and to save your lives by great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household and ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me. Your children, you and your children and your grandchildren, your flocks and your herds, and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise, you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. Okay, so basically he's telling them, you know what? I am here. I'm alive. It's not your fault that I'm here. It's actually God who has placed me here, because God has a plan for me, and he's been using me this whole time. So he tells his brothers, go back and get your father. Grab all of your family, all of your flocks, everything you own, bring them here. I will take care of you. And so that's what they do. And so Jacob is reunited with Joseph. It's kind of a happy ending where they finally get to know each other again. So Jacob is like, oh, my son is alive. He is ecstatic, and he goes. Okay, so that is basically the story of Joseph. So God used the evil act of Joseph's brothers to fulfill his plan. He allowed Joseph to be sold as a slave in Egypt so that Joseph's entire family went to Egypt. Sorry, let me start that again, because that is not true. So God used the evil act of Joseph's brothers to fulfill his plan. He allowed Joseph to be sold as a slave in Egypt so that many years later, Joseph could save them from starvation. When Joseph's entire family went to Egypt, God was setting in motion a plan that would be the beginning of the nation of Israel, leading to the birth of his son, Jesus. As Joseph told his brothers, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Genesis 50:20. God used Joseph to fulfill his plan for us to become a part of his house. Okay? That is just amazing. It's amazing what God can do for us. It's amazing what he can do for us without us even realizing it. Sometimes we know what he's doing. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we're like, well, God, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, I hope it's for your glory. Okay? So sometimes that's just what happens. So how many of you have thought about what you want to be when you grow up? What are your dreams? You know, I had lots of dreams when I was a kid, and I never really thought about what I would want to be when I grew up. All I really knew is I wanted to be a mom, and so that's what happened. I am a mom. I did want to stay home with my kids. I didn't want to have to work, and I did for a long time. I stayed home with all of my kids for a little bit. With Braulio. Braulio is the last one, and he got me at home for about 3 years before I had to go to work, but I didn't have to work a whole lot. I still got a chance to be with them. So that was really my only dream, really, I guess, when I was a kid. But what are some of your dreams? What are some of your goals you want to accomplish in life? Okay? So God is waiting to be a part of your dreams. There are 3 qualities that you must have in order to try and achieve your dreams. The first quality, this is very important, guys. The first quality, you cannot be afraid to fail. Let me repeat that. You cannot be afraid to fail, okay? Joseph never thought he was a failure. Even when he was sold as a slave or put in jail. Even during the most difficult times in our lives, God is always with us, waiting to fulfill his plan for our lives. So you cannot be afraid to fail, okay? It's through failure that you actually succeed. Okay, guys? All right, the second quality, we must have patience. Oh my goodness, that is such a big word, patience. Patience is so hard to have, okay? Like Joseph, we may not always get what we want right away, but we must put our trust in God. That is so completely true. Patience is so hard to have, but in time, God does answer your prayers. May not be the way you want it, but he does answer them. May not be in the time frame you want it, but he does answer them. So you must have patience. That's the second thing. The third thing, a dreamer can't be lazy. Oh my goodness. What? What are you talking about? A dreamer can't be lazy. A dreamer can't be lazy. You have to work hard, okay? So Ecclesiastes 5:3 tells us that a dream comes through much activity. This means that talking about what we want to accomplish is not enough. Reaching our dreams takes hard work. We can start working on achieving our dreams even as children. Since our most important dream is to get to heaven, we must start developing a relationship with God now, obeying Him now, and praying to Him now. Okay, so, whoa, that is just crazy. Those 3 qualities will help you to achieve your dreams, okay? You can't be afraid to fail. You have to have patience. And a dreamer can't be lazy. Okay, guys? Alright, so this was a great and wonderful story. We will have the memory verses at the end of this video so that you can look at them. Please, guys, you gotta call me and let me know about the videos. I promise I am putting Bible books in your folders. If you don't think you have a folder yet, call me anyway and I will make you a folder. Okay? Alright, guys, so this is the end of our video for today. I hope it wasn't too long for you, but we will see you later. Okay, guys? Bye.